Today we are going to talk about adding and subtracting fractions. It's going to be a little different than it was last week because we are going to talk about adding and subtracting fractions with different denominators. And the denominator is the number that is written below the line in the fraction. So it's the bottom number. And of course the denominator shows us how many equal parts we have. Let's look at this first example. I have 2/4 equals 1/2. This week we're going to talk about adding and subtracting fractions. We're going to talk about adding and subtracting fractions that have different denominators this week. And the denominator is the number that is written below the line in a fraction. And denominators show us how many equal parts we have. Let's look at our first example. 2/4 plus 1/2. Okay, I'm going to use my model to help me. So first of all, I'm going to label. This is 1/4, then this is 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4, which we all know equals 1/2. Okay, and this has two equal parts, so it's 1/2. Okay, so what I have to do is I'm going to have to make my denominators the same. So I can look at my model and see that this is equal to 1/2. So 2/4 is the same as 1/2. So I can easily divide that into fourths. So if I divide this bottom model into fourths, now I have 1/4, 2/4. So I'm going to take this fraction and change 1/2 to 2/4 because they are equivalent. Now I can add 2/4 plus 2/4, and we learned last week we just add the top number, so 2 plus 2 is 4 out of 4. We don't change our denominator because our equal parts don't change. We still have 4 equal parts. Okay, let's move on and try a different example. This time I have 2/8 plus 1/2. Okay, so I'm going to use my model again. Okay, the top one is 8, and this is 2/8 right here. And at the bottom I have 1/2, but I can see that I can easily divide my 1/2 into 8 equal parts. Okay, I'm using the lines above to guide me. So if I have 8 equal parts on the bottom, how many are red? I've got the 2 at the top plus 4. So this 1/2 that I have right here must be the same as 4/8. Those two fractions are equivalent. So now I'm going to change 1/2 to 4/8 because those two fractions are equivalent. They say the same amount of space. So if I have 2 red parts plus 4 red parts, that would be 2 plus 4 equals 6. And did our equal parts change? No. So I still have 8 equal parts. So my answer is 6/8. Okay, so when we have different denominators, we still have to change it and make our denominators the same. Okay, so now I'm looking at 4/9 plus 1/3. Okay, I'm going to look up here and see, can I change my thirds into ninths? And it looks like I can. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the lines at the top as my guide and make my thirds into ninths. So 1/3 is actually 1, 2, 3. So 1/3 is the same as 3 out of 9. So I'm going to change 1/3 to its equivalent fraction, which is 3/9. So now I have to add 4/9 plus 3/9. That means I have 4 red pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4 plus 3, 5, 6, 7. So my answer is 7 out of 9 because my 9 pieces did not change. So 4/9 plus 1/3 equals 7/9. Okay, we have another example for you. This time we're throwing in some subtraction. It's the same thing. Let's look at our denominators. I have 8 equal pieces and 2 equal pieces. So what I need to do is I need to make sure that my denominators are the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 1/2 that's right here and I'm going to change it into 8 equal parts. If I change it into 8 equal parts, then I can easily count how many red parts I have. So this is 6/8 on the top, and I'm going to take away 1/2. This is 1/2, but the equivalent fraction is 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 8. Those are equivalent. So I'm going to change 1/2 to 4/8 because I used my model and saw that those are equivalent. Now, I've got to take away, we're subtracting 6 minus 4. So if I start out with 6 and take away, and I'm starting out with 6. Hi, this week we are going to talk about adding and subtracting fractions. We are going to use different denominators this week. And of course, our denominator is the number that is written below the line in a fraction. And our denominator will show us how many equal parts we have. So let's get started with our first example. We have 2/4 plus 1/2. And you can easily see that our two denominators are different. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that our denominators are the same. So if I have 2/4 and 1/2, what I have to do is I have to change my denominators and make them the same. And I'm going to do that by using these models. I'm going to take, this is the fourths and this is the halves. I'm going to take my halves and change it into fourths. And I'm using the lines above. So now I have 4 equal parts on the top and 4 equal parts on the bottom. So 1/2 that was right here is equivalent. It's the same as 2/4. So 1/2 is the same as 2/4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out that fraction and I'm going to write the equivalent fraction 2/4. So now I'm adding 2/4 plus 2/4. Well, I can easily use my model and see 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 equal parts out of, 4 equal parts out of 4. Our equal parts didn't change. So I have 4/4, which is equivalent to 1 whole. So 2/4 plus 1/2 is equal to 1 whole. All right, let's go look at another example. This time I have 2/8 plus 1/2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my bottom model, which is 1/2, and I'm going to change that denominator to an 8 using my model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and make it into 8 equal parts. I'm using the lines from the top model so that I make sure that it will be the same. So now I've just changed 1/2 into 8 equal parts. 4 are shaded in, so 1/2 is the same as 4/8. So if I just rewrite this fraction in a different way, I'm still naming the same amount. So 4/8 is the same as 1/2. But now look at my denominators. I've got 8 here and 8 here. So now I can easily add. And I can also just go to the top and count my red spaces. 2 on the top plus 4 on the bottom. 2 plus 4. 2 plus 4, fix that, equals 6. And we did not change the number of equal parts, so it's still out of 8. So 2/8 plus 1/2 is equivalent to 6/8. Okay, let's go on to another example. Okay, 4/9 plus 1/3. I'm looking at my denominators and notice they are different. My job is to change those denominators to make them the same. Okay, so let's look at our models. I've got 4/9 right here on the top, and this red part is showing me 1 out of 3, 1/3. But I'm going to take it and divide the bottom model into 9 equal parts. So 9 equal parts is what I have on the bottom. How many are red? 3. Good. So 1/3 is equivalent to 3/9. So if I change this fraction to one that means the same, 3/9. Look at my denominators. What do you notice? Great, they're both the same. So now it's easy to add 4 plus 3, 7, and how many equal parts? 9. Our equal parts didn't change. So 4/9 plus 3/9 is 7/9. So remember, we have to always keep our denominators the same. Okay, now we're going to move to subtraction. Okay, I'm going to start with my models. 1/2 is on the bottom, and remember, I have to make my denominators the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that 1/2 into 8 equal parts. Okay, so 1/2 is really 4/8. That's the same as 4/8. And when we're subtracting, that means we're taking away. So if I start with 6 and take away 4, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And how many are left? 2. Good. So I'm going to write 1/2, and its equivalent fraction is 4/8. So 6 minus 4 is 2, and it's out of 8. Okay, so I took away 4, and I used my bottom model to show me that 1/2 is really 4/8, so that I could make my denominators the same. Okay, you have some sample problems on your homework sheet, so I want you to go ahead and fill those in and use those models to help you. Thanks.